Hi everyone, today I want to share this fall themed card, perfect for Thanksgiving, and it uses a lot of products from the Come Together suite, and I wanted to point out some of my favorite pieces of this collection. First off, the paper in this collection is beautiful, and one side has kind of soft mint. This is like seafoam and mint macaron and the pretty peacock and some earthy tones. But then when you turn it over, you've got some deep, rich plaids and Cajun. See if I can find some Cajun and Mary Merlot. Let me find my favorite plaid. I might have used it all. Let's see. Oh no, here it is on the back of the feathers. A fun fall plaid. I like this one a lot. It's got some really fun colors, Cajun Craze, Mary Merlot, pretty peacock, pear pizzazz. So it's a really fun pack of paper, and we're using one of the patterns from there with some leaves on it. Really fun. Oh, this is a fun one too. It's got like a burlap with little polka dots on it. Super cute. Anyway, we're using this paper, and it is Mary Merlot, so I'm going to use a card base of Mary Merlot. But there's also a die collection that goes with this stamp set, and it's a really fun die collection because it makes these leaves. And notice the leaves, hopefully you can see them on a film, on the camera. I wonder if it'll pick it up. It's got embossing and cutting out in the die all at one time. It's really fun, and I wanted to point those out. So here's the stamp set, here's the die collection. If you buy them together, you get a bundle price savings, and you get dies that cut out the pumpkins and one die that cuts out the large leaf. We're going to use that one. But you also get 3 different leaf patterns, and I hope that you can see that there's some raised areas here, and those are the areas that get the dry embossing, the raised and lows, highs and lows, the veins of the leaves. Really fun. You see that? And I love those. Those are really fun. I always love leaves and leaf stamps and leaf dies, so I was really happy to add these to my stamp collection. Now for this card, I mentioned we're using a base of Mary Merlot. We're also going to use a matte piece of Early Espresso, and then we're going to put another center panel in the pattern DSP from Come Together. And then we're using an accent. Normally I put on the inside a very vanilla or a whisper white, and this time I thought I would change it up a little bit and use Sahara Sand, which is a really nice neutral. It's not super dark, so you can use it as an inside piece where you can still write on it. But it's a little more fun, a little different. Just change it up a bit from the very vanilla and whisper white that I always use. So this is cut at 4 by 5 1/4, same as the espresso. And then our designer series paper is cut at 3 3/4 by 5. But this little piece here is just a 3 by 3 square that we're going to use to stamp our large leaf. Now to stamp the large leaf, I'm stamping it in Mary Merlot. And then I'm going to take an aqua painter, which is my favorite thing. And all I'm going to do, I'm not adding any more ink, I already put it away. I'm just going to use the aqua painter to kind of drag this ink around the leaf. You don't want it to dry, so you have to kind of do this right after you stamp. And my aqua painter, I just filled it and squeezed it so it's very wet. You don't need quite as much water as I've got going on here. So mine's really wet. I'm going to set it aside and let it dry. But that's how that looks. I think that's very pretty. I didn't add any extra ink. That's just from the smearing of what was on there. You can't do that with every color successfully, but it looks great in Mary Merlot. Okay. I'm gonna, while that's drying, kind of put some layers together here. I'm going to attach my Early Espresso matte piece to the main panel. This is one of those designer series papers where, you know, they're double-sided and you don't know which side is your favorite and you hate to use them. It's like you need to get an extra pack just so you have it, you know. Okay, now before I attach this to my card, I'm going to wrap some ribbon. Now this ribbon is really pretty. It's part of a pack. You get this kind of linen-y ribbon with some shimmer on the side, kind of a satin. So you've kind of got a mixture of dressy and satin, and then also some natural fibers. Really pretty. And then you get this Cajun craze too. So it comes together in a little bundle. Really cute. And I really like using this. I've already used an entire one of the cherry cobbler. So sometimes I make a bow that goes all the way around or different things. I want this one to lie pretty flat. So, because I'm going to add a lot of layers on here. I'm just going to cut this slightly larger than the card, and I'm going to run some of this tear tape and I like tear tape for adding ribbon. Works really nice. So then I can just wrap this around. There we go. And now I can attach this panel straight down to my card. I almost didn't make it there. I should have cut it just a little bit longer. There we go. A lot of times I like to use dimensionals to pop up the main panel, but as I'm going to have a lot of leaf layers here, I'm trying to keep the base pretty flat. Okay, and then on the inside, like I said, we're going to put some Sahara sand. Oops. Okay, so there's the base of our card. Pretty simple. Kind of pretty all on its own. A little greeting and you're done, really. But we're going to jazz it up even more. Now, like I said, I cut out a whole bunch of these leaves. Now, one tip that I was given for these is, I saw this on another, on our demonstrator website where we get to talk shop. And it's a nice website where we all kind of share ideas. If you wet the paper down, I don't know if you can see the difference between the Cajun Craze, I bet you can. All right, notice how it looks like I've got two different colors here. It looks like I've got some areas here that are deep Mary Merlot and then the true Mary Merlot color on the veins, whereas this one is all kind of solid. That is because on this one, I sprayed the paper first with a little spritz of water, and then I ran it through the dye. Here's the dye. I ran it through, and the deeper areas kind of, I don't know, they just kind of squish better, so you get more definition in your veins. It kind of breaks down the fibers of the paper, but for some reason it also gets them dark. And I thought once the paper dried, once that water evaporated, that the deep color in the veining, or behind the veining, would disappear, but it didn't. And the same thing on this peacock piece. See how there's darker and lighter colors? It's really pretty. And I didn't do it because I did my Cajun leaves first, forgetting about that little tip. So I have some that are not as deep, and I thought that's okay, it's some variation. But if you spray your paper first, look at that difference, and it's really pretty. I think it looks really great. Oops. Okay, now I want to show you a tip on how to put this together, because I've got a lot of layers here, and maybe you're going to have a hard time figuring out how to make this all work without making a big mess. So the first thing you need to do is to cut out your large leaf. This is finally dry, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, and I'll be right back. Okay, here's my leaf. It turned out a little darker than this one, and that's only because I didn't immediately paint this one. I probably was talking to somebody or doing two things at once. Okay, so this leaf is going to go down first. Even though it's on top, you might think it should go down last. This is going to go down first. And you want to put some dimensionals in the center of the leaf. And I know that normally we want to put them kind of all around the outside to make sure that it's all covered. But here we want to put it just on the middle. and then figure where you want that to go. Okay, and so then it's up a little bit, and that's what we want, because then we're going to take some liquid glue and we're going to tuck these little leaves kind of underneath. So you're going to just add a little bit of liquid glue and tuck them underneath. And there's 3 different sizes, so I'm trying to not put the ones that are exactly the same next to each other. So I'm going to put this one right there. Then I'm going to tuck this one on top. You're just going to layer a bunch of leaves. And I love the addition of this peacock in this card. It kind of seems like you wouldn't put peacock, you'd want to stick with the colors in the paper, but I looked at the Designer Series paper pack, and peacock was a color mentioned in the pack. I like to look at the colors that are mentioned on the Designer Series paper and kind of bring them together, because they are always beautiful. Now you can decide how many you want to do. I cut 3 of every color. I don't know that I'm going to use 3 of every color. You just kind of go crazy. Maybe 1 more. Nice small little ones. Okay, let's tuck this one right there. Yeah. So I've got my little cluster of leaves. Okay, and then I want to add some of these little wooden accents. Now these come in a pack with some feathers, and I used those. Let me see if I have, oh, I do have them on my desk. I had some feather paper, and I used the feathers on this card with the pumpkins, same stamp set, and I think these little wooden accents just really make for a pretty card. And you get a whole bunch. I think you get 12 of these little tags and then 12 of each size feather. And so this is one of the little discs. Looks like a little tree ring. And I want to give you a tip on this one. I stamped one once with ink first, and it's hard. It's got a little, I don't know if it's this paint that's on there or what, but the ink doesn't want to just make a deep impression. It just really doesn't. It kind of sat on the top. So if I had used a stamp positioner like the Stamparatus, where you can stamp multiple times, that would have been great, but I didn't. So it kind of ruined one of my little tree rings. I actually went to the kitchen and wiped it off with a sponge, and it deepened the whole thing to a little bit darker tree ring, and I ended up using it anyway, and it was fine. But use a stamp positioner if you're going straight stamp pad. But if you use embossing, the Versamark ink has got a sticky tackiness to it, and you can emboss on these tree rings really easily, and that was really nice. So that's why we did it at Stamp Camp, because I didn't want anybody having problems with inking these up. So we are going to use, this one says Season of Thanks, and some Versamark ink, which, like I said, is sticky, see? And then I wanted to use this new embossing powder. It's called Basic Black Shimmer, or Shimmer Basic Black. It's really pretty, and I wanted to use that because the shimmer is kind of, got this little scrap piece here. The shimmer is kind of colors that go with this card. I don't know if you can see the sparkle there, but they're kind of regally shimmers. You've got, like, you can see flecks of deep reds and deep green, like that look like the peacock and the Merlot. So it's really pretty. So I'm going to put that on there. Now, see how that sticks on there? You want to turn this over and give it really good flicks to get that off, because otherwise it's going to look messy when you heat it up. Okay, now my heat tool is going to be a little loud. Okay, there it is. Still a little hot. So we're going to go ahead and attach this right here. Now you can do this a couple different ways. You can use your liquid glue, which is what I'm going to do. You can use tear tape. It's really strong if you have some of that. Go ahead and put it down. It's almost a shame to cover up this leaf, isn't it? But it's really pretty. hold it for a minute just so it gets tacky. And then I did not go through this little hole with my bow. It's hard to thread and make the bow look perfect, so I just pretended. There. And I made a little bow with this Cajun thread and glue dotted it right on there. I'm going to speed up the bow tying process because I'm not very graceful with the bows. Okay, there's my bow. And we're going to grab a glue dot. I'm going to put it right on that little center. And there you have it. I hope that you like it. I think it is really fun. Oh, and I always have these extra leaves left over because, like I said, I cut a bunch. So if you have some left over, might as well throw them. You can, you know, put them in the card and don't even attach them, and they kind of would be like confetti. So when the recipient opens the card, I got one like that recently. It was really fun. And the little leaves would fall out, or glue them down if you like some little leaves. Isn't that pretty? So I hope you'll give it a try. I hope you'll try using your aqua painters on your stamped images. I think it's really great. And check out, oh, you know what? Maybe you notice these little brown sprigs. I wanted to tie in some more of this deep color. And I punched out from the sprig punch these little early espresso sprigs. I had some left over, and I just tucked them in kind of underneath. That one didn't come out great. And I forgot. So let's put one of those in since it's sitting here. See, you thought you were done. And maybe if you stopped watching already, you're not going to see this part. All right, so there, now it's done. I hope that you enjoyed my video. Please subscribe, let me know what you think. And if you don't already have a demonstrator, I would love for you to buy from me. I am in Illinois, or anywhere in the U.S. You can purchase online through my blog, bethspapercuts.com, and there's a link to the side here. And also I have a Facebook page, Beth's Paper Cuts, and there's an idea sharing group there. I'd love for you to join me there, and feel free to contact me with any questions. Thank you so much. Bye.